Hello and welcome to our second Moore Global M&D Summit series. COVID has exposed real problems for many businesses that source goods globally. The Suez Canal blockage earlier this year revealed supply chain vulnerabilities. Brexit has caused rerouting of products in Europe. And logjams in American ports have increased freight costs by 10 times and delayed product delivery for months. I'm Roland, editor of Moore Intelligence, and I'm joined by a panel of experts to discuss why the problems have become so acute and how companies can adapt to a situation that looks set to be with us for some time. With me are Mark Fagan, Moore Global Industry Leader of Manufacturing and Distribution and a partner at Citrin Cooperman in New York. Costas Constantinou, Moore Global's Industry Leader in Maritime and Managing Partner of Moore Greece in Athens. And Ross Bacarella, CEO of BTX Global Logistics, a global freight forwarding and logistics company based in Shelton, Connecticut. So let's talk about what each of you are seeing right now in your worlds with your customers. Mark, let's start with you.
Thanks, Roland, and really happy to be here to talk about this amazing topic that has been just in front and center really for most of 2021. Couple of images first. You'll see here the aerial shot of the port of Long Beach in California, where cargo ships are waiting to unload. Some 3-week wait time. They're all just bottled up because they can't get their container ships unloaded. Now, the second image is really what I want to talk a little bit about at first. This is the image of supply chain components. All of my M&D clients right now are having supply chain issues of some sort. And I've done a lot of reading to better understand what's going on. And it's really complex. And the issues are across the entire supply chain. And the different supply chain components are blaming each other, whether it be the shipping lines, the ports, the port workers, the truckers, the warehouse operators, railways, and retailers. It's really a perfect storm that's driving up costs and choking the movement of goods. The truckers appear to be the weakest link in the chain, and that's a lot of what's getting a lot of the newspapers talking about it, and also the port congestion. But it's really across all elements. Containers, for instance. There's a shortage of containers because many containers, which transported millions of masks to countries in Africa and South America, well, they remain empty and uncollected in those countries because the shipping carriers have concentrated their vessels on the most profitable routes, namely between Asia and North America and Asia and Europe. And then there's the truckers and the trucking. COVID complicated the licensing of new commercial truck drivers. Training had to go from in-person to virtual. That slowed up the certification of new truck drivers. And at the same time, the aging truck drivers, well, they started retiring and not coming back due to COVID concerns. And from some of the research I was doing, Forbes reported that there's one qualified driver for every 9 job postings. And in the UK, there's a driver shortage of some 76,000 people. And, Brexit kind of got swept under the rug during COVID, but post-Brexit trading arrangements have resulted in trucks moving fewer products to end users in the UK. And then there's the rail systems. The major railroads, they have a labor shortage of their own. At the beginning of COVID, railroads furloughed thousands of workers and took hundreds of locomotives offline. Now, like a lot of the workers we see in the States, at least, they're slow to come back. So there's issues with the rail system as well. And air cargo, if my clients are thinking of switching to air cargo, it's a lot more expensive. It's roughly 8 times the cost of shipping with via sea shipment. And with international travel restrictions with COVID, it's making it even more expensive. And then lastly, there's the warehouses. Everyone is replenishing their inventories. I know a lot of my clients are really going from their old model of just in time to stocking up, and that's creating a warehouse shortage. And so the containers come in, they can't unload into the warehouse, so then the containers sit loaded up, so that also adds to the container shortage. So it's across all these different elements, and that's really what's been the concern and when this is gonna finally loosen up.
Hi, my name is Ross Bacarella. I am the president and CEO of BTX Global Logistics, a worldwide global forwarder with headquarters in the United States and strategic offices throughout the world. I'd like to thank you for allowing me to talk to you all today, and especially like to say hello to my co-panelists, Mark Fagan and Constantinou. We've been talking about supply chain for a while, preparing for this meeting, and the challenges that it has brought to our industry. And unfortunately, things have gotten a little bit worse since we first started talking. We're seeing exactly what Mark talked about prior about how the supply chain continues to be stretched and challenged. Our modes of transportation at BTX are air freight, sea freight, ground freight, and four wall logistics, which what we consider what happens inside of a building. And I'll talk about that first. Warehouses are overflowing. Customer have they have their own warehouses and their own third party relationships. However, they're experiencing challenges on bringing in additional product where these facilities, whether it's theirs or a third party facility, are completely full. Um, so getting away from the JIT model that others have used for so long has presenting significant challenges. Because of this, there's just not enough spaces. So recently, case in point, a very large manufacturer of BTXs came to us and asked us for some help. They have facilities throughout the world. In order to plan for the future, they did exactly what we're suggesting: is order what you need, not for just now, but for a long time. So they have a lot of sea freight containers on their way in, and they said, our warehouses, our DCs are full. We can't take in the product ourselves. Can you help us? Well, sure, we can help you. Well, how much space do you have? Was asked of me. I said, well, we have some space. Well, what do you need? Well, we need about 100,000 square feet to transload about 50 containers coming in and holding them for a while for us. Unfortunately, we weren't able to help. Who has 100,000 square feet of warehousing space that's empty, just hanging out, doing absolutely nothing? And that's happening pretty often to us, where customers are coming to us asking for some help. On the air freight side, we're seeing transit delays that are typically doubling their traditional transit times. What used to take 2 or 3 days for an air freight shipment coming in from, let's say, Rome to Chicago or going from Asia to Frankfurt is now taking twice as much time for the same price. Not so much. Prices have doubled, tripled, quadrupled in some cases, depending upon where the origin city is. And customers are feeling the brunt of it. On the sea freight side, we'll talk more in depth about the challenges. However, Constantino is the industry expert, and he'll be talking a little bit more about that. BTX provides a large array of services to our clients, and sea freight being a big part of it. When the boats are eventually hitting the ports here in the United States, they're getting offloaded, but we can't get to the containers. The containers are offloaded to their yards, and truckers are lined up, and they're lined up in lines in which they just don't want to wait. And a good amount of them cannot afford to be idle. They need to move in order to make money. The labor market in the US is tight, especially when it comes to truck drivers. Companies are rating each other's by offering ridiculous signing bonuses and paying some high salaries. Um, you know, why is that, you may ask? Well, we can blame COVID. We can blame the government for subsidizing our blue collar workers, keeping them on the sidelines for so long, or we can just look at Amazon and what they've done to us. They've taken a lot of our capacity. They've taken a lot of our drivers and our laborers and are now employing them in their DCs. And of course, we no longer have access to that labor pool. Our air freight product that we briefly talked about remains the most viable product that we offer today. It's more expensive, but customers can get their products in on time for a little delay, but most importantly, they're getting the product on time. We can only hope that the margins in which the customers are enjoying don't get deteriorated too much. They can possibly absorb them, or some have to pass them through. Hello, inflation, right? Our ground product is very tight as well. We can't get enough drivers to carry our loads the customers are requiring of us. We pick up hundreds of loads a day, and we still have drivers that are falling off. We're turning a lot of our customers away because we just can't help them right now. So as a whole, we're seeing a tremendous amount of delays on the road. One of the big products that we offer our customers is e-commerce final mile solutions, where we're delivering and transporting goods like televisions, furniture, exercise equipment, and such to the consumers who have ordered this product months and months and months ago. They're just frustrated as heck, looking for their products to enjoy them from their purchases. Our call centers are stressed. We're getting a lot of angry customers, just frustrated as heck. We just got the material to transport. It's not our fault that it took so long for it to get to the customer's door. So that's a big thing that we're seeing a lot as well.
Yeah, so Ross, that warehouse example is exactly what I'm seeing. I've got a food distributor client who's just turning away customers because he doesn't have the truck drivers to be able to deliver the product to the customers. And his warehouse is very tight as well. He's offering $80,000 a year salary, full benefits, and he can't get anybody for warehouse positions to show up for an interview there. And he doesn't have the truck drivers to move the product out to his customers. So new business is sitting there right in front of him, and he can't make the move to get those new customers. So it's very frustrating in that sense. And as a consumer, I know we just ordered a couch. We were okay with it being delivered in next June, and then they called back about a week after and said, no, we can't deliver it. We probably can't even deliver it in 2021. So, I'm sorry, 2022. So it's just crazy the amount of stoppage that's happening with commerce. And I know, Costas, you see it from the shipping side, so that's got to be interesting.
Okay, right. Thank you, Mark, for that pass that you made to me. Actually, I'm here just to give you guys the dimension from the sea, in the sense that shipping is like the middle link in the supply chain that connects production in Asia and consumption in the States. Everything comes by ship. So up to now, shipping was a bit invisible. Things just happened. Things just were carried from China to Los Angeles, and nobody knew how. Now, because of the reasons that I will try to describe, shipping has become very, very visible. We need to understand that at least the container side of shipping has experienced a more than 10-year period of very, very low freights. And there were some big bankruptcies in liner companies. And that means, in practical terms, that shipping companies have scrapped ships, and reducing the number of ships reduces the supply of tonnage, as we say. So this COVID hiccup in the supply chain found container shipping in a period which was de-investing as a result of the oversupply of ships in the previous years. And also due to the environmental reasons, container ships, which are, I wouldn't like to say the word they pollute the most, because they carry the most, but they emit a lot of CO2. In order to reduce CO2 emissions, they have reduced speed, because speed versus CO2 emissions is not a simple line. It's exponential. So if you reduce your speed by a few knots, you reduce dramatically your CO2 emissions. So, but reducing speed means that you have effectively fewer number of ships at sea. The point is that in shipping at this moment it has stretched to its limits. I don't think there is going to be any solution from the sea, at least in the short term. And from what I gathered from my other two fellow speakers, the problem still is not how to get the container from Asia to the States. If you have the money, you'll get it, but how to pass it on to the ultimate consumer. And all these delays that happen in port side warehousing affect the ships, because ships have to unload, they have to reload, and the hiccup somewhere will delay a ship by a day, and that will have a knock-on effect all the way back to China.
And Costas, I was just talking to a client of mine yesterday who's a distributor of luxury vinyl flooring, and he can't talk enough and compliment enough about his supply chain officer. And I think that's going to be a very coveted title. If it wasn't before, it is now. And what he's been doing pretty successfully is monitoring the different places that he's taking his vessels that are coming in from China, and either putting them into the Gulf, putting them into the West Coast, putting them into the East Coast, in order to see who's got the less congestion and who's got the best the best route to the end user. And on top of that, they're also increasing warehouse space, and they're also looking to dual source, and also possibly manufacturing themselves in a place closer to the consumer. So it's really important to have that talent online now.
Indeed, Mark. Indeed, I think it would be nice to have an app like Google Maps, where you can find the most optimal route from factory to window, to shop window, because you might find that the straight line is no longer the fastest way, and you really need to think it very, very carefully to ensure that your container is on board the ship, that perhaps it's slower, perhaps it's more expensive, but has more flexibility in docking to more ports than the massive containers that are cheaper, but they can only dock in certain ports. And then you will need to have somebody waiting for that, to ensure that there is a truck driver that will take the container up to somewhere. But what you mentioned is quite valid, in the sense that I think from now on, not from now, I think that people should now consider whether something is worth transporting in a container, because containers, you rent space, really. It's not a weight thing. A ship can carry enormous amounts of weight. You are renting space, so you really so a high value item like your client has. Yes, it can still be very economical to transport from Asia, but the big volume, high volume, low value item that all of us in Europe, in the States, we used to manufacture in China. Maybe it is not these days the most efficient way of getting it to somebody's house. Manufacturing it in Asia, saving a few dollars on manufacturing cost, but the transport cost and the risk of getting stuck somewhere is going to be just too much. So I think the supply chain equation is going to change a bit from now on.
So Ross, what can middle market companies do to combat what's becoming the new normal in supply chains?
What does the future hold? I believe it could take up to 2 years before we see some normalcy on the market. I'm hoping that I'm wrong, but I've been doing this for a long time, so that's my educated guess. Transportation on all modes requires more capacity. Demand is outpacing capacity, and the only way to meet demand is increase that capacity, and that means building more ships, more trucks, more airplanes, and it takes a lot of money to do so. Customers have to make the adjustment as this is all happening around them. A great deal of our customers are now planning for the future by ordering what they need way in advance. We talked a little bit about the JIT model, and it just doesn't work right now. We're seeing non-customers coming to us, asking us for help. We've been talking to them for years, but most of them have said, we're happy with our current provider. We're happy with our transportation solution. Today, not so much. We're getting calls from many opportunities. They're just reaching out to see what we can offer. So single sourcing with your transportation provider is really not prudent at this point. Diversify your carrier base. Look to each one of those carriers who have their own proprietary network, that have their own capacities that typically may not be shared with others, to see what they can do for you. And so it's smart business. Expand your transportation base and diversify your portfolio. Single sourcing is not the most prudent way to go. An area of importance I see on a daily basis is finance. Customers are challenged financially to meet the demand of ordering additional equipment. They have to go to their banks to get more financing in place. Not only do they go to the banks to get more financing in place, but they have to talk to us about additional credit lines. What used to be $1 million line with a decent sized customer of BTX's now requires $3 or $4 million credit line. And it takes a process to do so. If they cannot get the additional credit line with us, then they have to pay us faster. In order to pay us faster, they have to hit their credit lines that they have with the banks in order to make sure they can get their bills paid on time. So that's a real big area that I see customers dealing with. And then there's the cost of warehousing. If you need additional space, plan for it. Talk to your third-party logistics providers. See if they have the ability to handle your overflow. See if they can accommodate to make sure that you're going to be okay. Plan for prices to be a lot higher than what they were before. Lots of customers are coming to us right now because their existing platforms can't support their additional requirements. So if you're not having those conversations right now with those companies, make sure you do. Case in point, logistics warehousing in Los Angeles, California, is gone from $10 a skid to $30 a skid. So what you thought you were going to store a pallet for is triple, and we have to plan for that.
So, Mark, we've heard we've heard the problems on land and on sea. How would you sum up what middle tier companies need to do to get over this problem?
Yeah, well, Roland, what we're working with our clients is really to improve their ability to build a resilient supply chain system inside of their company and beyond their company. And that's really where technology comes into play. And there's three kind of main themes that we have with that. Optimizing the supplier network, and that includes dual sourcing and dual tooling of the product. Choosing suppliers possibly that are closer to the areas of demand. I've got clients that are doing that. It's a difficult thing to do and it can be expensive, but that's something that you've got to look at. And as Ross talked about, leveraging technology to improve supplier chain visibility, to know what's going on from the shop floor of your supplier to the customer that receives your goods. And that kind of pulls into the next big topic of it is improved technology. So companies have to be, and our clients are, making significant investments in technology to monitor that data from supplier to the customer, to implement supplier risk management processes. So now you're getting into a whole different level of corporate governance with the supply chain, when before it was just kind of something that was there, kind of like what Costas said about the shipping leg of the supply chain. And then to improve your relationship with your suppliers. There's a really good article about how Elon Musk kept his supply chain going and took away suppliers from other auto dealer manufacturers, and now is not really didn't have much of a blip. And then the last The last kind of leg of these three things that we're helping our clients is improved forecasting. So utilizing advanced analytic tools, and you have to get the talent to implement those analytic tools to understand your supply chain and your customer preferences and needs and wants and the ebbs and flows of the demand. Scenario planning to understand and react to crises in the supply chains. You've got to be able to plan it out. And again, what Ross was saying, moving from this demand forecasting to demand planning and demand shaping. So it's really a more sophisticated, really environment along your supply chain, which is heavily leveraged by technology. That's the biggest thing.
Ross, I believe you've seen some very impressive developments in technology that have come out of this situation. Can you tell us a little about those?
Absolutely. Technology is the biggest growth department of BTX. In fact, we refer to ourselves as a technology company that happens to provide transportation services. It is our largest department today, or our largest growth department. So it's critically important to offer our customers transparency through technology to make sure that their supply chain, they have visibility into it. Through web dashboards, customers can easily see what's going on with their portfolio of shipments in a very easy view, or we could integrate through APIs, web services, or traditional EDI into the customer's ERP services or systems. So there's complete transparency. You have to be able to react to a blip on the map when it comes up, and having that visibility affords you to see what's happening along the way.
So there we have it. Global supply chains will rebalance over time, but the current upheaval is set to continue for the foreseeable future. In the meantime, companies should stick close to their funders and open up as many lines of credit as possible. They also need to know what's going on at their suppliers, to know whether they're able to cope and understand where the pinch points might be that might impact on them. So join us in the next of our Moore Global M&D Summit series, when we'll be discussing how to tackle labour shortages.